Hey guys, welcome to INS's Artistic Pursuits. In today's video, we're going to make this infamous bow bag. This is my version of it. It is well structured, so you can carry it with you as a clutch, or you also have these D-rings to carry it as a sling. It is also very spacious. On the inside, you can have your mobile phone, wallet, and you name it, all your small essentials. I haven't used any stiffening agents in this bag. It's just as is, so you can see how well structured it is turned out. So now grab your things and let's get started. For this project, I'm using a 1mm nylon or polyester yarn. I've used a total of 200 to 250 grams to complete this pouch. I'm using a 2.5mm crochet hook, a tapestry needle. I'm going to fasten my bag off with this lock. This is completely optional. You can use just regular magnet buttons for the bag, and this is a 1.25 inch by 3/4 inch D hooks for the handle. I'm using some stitch markers and a pair of scissors. Just grab your things and let's get started. As per, we'll first start with a slip knot, and then we will make 40 working chains. That's 40 working chains. So that's 40 chains for me. Now we'll make one additional chain that doesn't count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain, and I'm going to work into these back bumps on the chains. So now I'm going to skip the first chain, and into the second chain from the hook I'm going to insert my hook into the back bump, and I'm going to make a slip stitch. So just pull up a loop and pull through both the loops. Now we yarn over, and into the next stitch right here I'm going to go under this bump and make a half double crochet. Now into the following stitch I go into this under this bump and make my slip stitch, and into the following stitch yarn over, go under the loop and make your half double crochet. So we alternate between slip stitches and half double crochet all the way till you reach the end. Our last stitch will be a half double crochet, so I'll meet you guys back when you reach the end of this row. I've reached the end of the row. I just have one stitch remaining. That's my last stitch of row 1, and that's my row 1 complete. So for row 2 we are going to make a chain, turn our work around, and now this chain doesn't count as a stitch, it's just a turning chain. Now we work into this stitch right here. We go under both these loops, we pull up a loop, and we make our slip stitch. We yarn over, and into the next stitch we make our half double crochet. So like the first row, we are going to alternate with a slip stitch and a half double crochet all the way through. We are going to do that for a total of 76 rows. So every row is just going to be rows of this even moss stitch. That is, every row starts with a chain, and then you make a slip stitch, and then your second stitch will be a half double crochet, and you keep going on doing that till you reach the end of the row. The last stitch of every row will be a half double crochet. You chain once and then start off the next row with a slip stitch. So continue doing that all the way till you reach till you complete row number 76. I'll meet you guys back once you're done with 76 rows. I have reached the end of my 76th row, and that was my last stitch. I'm just going to grab a stitch marker and place it there so that my stitch doesn't unravel, and I'll show you how my piece looks. You've completed 76 rows. Your piece should look something like this. And now this is where we've ended our last stitch. I'm going to grab 2 stitch markers, and we count row number 30 from this side. So this is where we started our work, and we count row number 30 from here. So how do we do that? Now if you see this, that's row number 1. If you see closely, you'll have these diagonal stitches right on the edge. So that's your row 1, and then one row will be underneath that. This is row number 3, 4, 5, 6, and you keep counting till you get to row number 30, and you place your stitch marker there like I did over here. So now we place our stitch markers on both sides of our work, and let me just do that. So this stitch right here, once you mark the 30th row, you go down 16 more rows. That is the 46th row. That's this one right here. You mark it on both sides, and then I'll zoom in and I'll tell you what we do next. So after marking the row number 30 and 46, we are back to our 76th row. So this is where our last stitch for the 76th row was. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a chain, and I'm going to turn my work around. We're going to continue now for row number 77. We are going to work 1 single crochet into the back loop only of each of the stitches of that previous row. So now that's our turning chain. Into the first stitch under the back loop only, we pull up a loop and we make our single crochet. We make 1 single crochet into each of those stitches of that row. So I'll meet you guys back when I have a total of 40 single crochets and I've reached the end of this row. I've reached the end of row number 77 with, this is my 40th single crochet in the back loop only. So now we chain once, we turn our work around, and like we've done from row 1 to row number 76, we're going to start our moss stitch pattern in this row. So the first stitch is going to be a slip stitch, but this time we go into both these stitches like we've done every other row. So we go under both the loops and we make our slip stitch, and then we make our half double crochet, and we continue making this moss stitch pattern for a total of 32 more rows. So I'll meet you guys back once you've completed 32 rows of the moss stitch pattern from after this 77th row. So I'll meet you guys at the end of row number 109. So that's where my 32nd row after this flap joint came. So I've marked it with a stitch marker. Don't cut your yarn as yet. After completing this, of course you wouldn't have this hole over here. I've made that hole so that I can fix this clasp later. If you do want me to show you how to do that for a clasp that you may have, let me know in the comments box below and I'll put a video up for that. But you wouldn't have this hole, you would just have your stitches throughout. You'll have such a long piece of work which measures a little over 14 and a half inches actually, which is about 37.5 centimeters long, and it is 5.5 inches wide, about 14 centimeters wide actually. So now once we've done that, I'm just going to move my work down here. This line that you see here is where we had that row of single crochets on the back loops. It kind of creates that fold for your bag, so it creates that natural fold so that your bag can fold easily in that spot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab 2 stitch markers and I'm going to mark the 17th stitch from this corner right here. So that's row 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and this one right here is the 17th stitch. That is the 17th row from the end. or you can count down from here. So this would be first this single crochet rows, and then up to this stitch, the stitch before the stitch, the row before the stitch marker should have 16 rows. That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16. That's perfect. So do the same on the other side. You can just follow this grid line and mark it over here. So now we're going to work the side of the wings. We're not going to cut the yarn. We're just going to keep working all the way around, come this way and work our way through this spot and end the bag on this end. So there is no cutting of the yarn anywhere, right? So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to show you what we do from here. So we're going to start working our way on this side, and just grab your needle and let's go to the next part. So now this is how we worked our last row, and this is where our last stitch is. I'm not going to cut my yarn. We're just going to continue working. I'm just going to pull my stitch marker out. I'm going to insert my hook in and flip my work 90 degrees to face the side. So that's how we worked the last row, and I'm facing the side now. Now in this side we work 17 chains. It's 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. So that's a total of 17 chains for me. And now I'm going to make one additional chain that doesn't count as a stitch, it's just our turning chain. Now I'm going to turn my chain to face the back. Now into these back bumps, if you can see clearly, that's the back bump. I'm going to work into these back bumps now. So I'm going to skip the first chain, and into the second chain from the hook I'm going to insert my hook under that bump, pull up a loop and make my first single crochet. I'm going to make 8 more single crochets, so we should have a total of 9 single crochets. That's our first one, and we continue making single crochets into the following stitches. And that's my 9th single crochet. So that completes 9 single crochets on this row so far, and now you should have 8 chains remaining. We've made a total of 17. We've made 9 single crochets, and you should have 8 chains remaining. So now in the remaining chains we are going to make 1 slip stitch each. So we go into the back bump only again, and we pull up a loop and make our slip stitch. And I'm going to make 1 slip stitch each into each of the chains that we have. So we'll have a total of 8 slip stitches. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we've done 17 stitches in this chain. Now this is our last row, and our last stitch was a half double crochet. So now we are going to slip stitch into that stitch right there. So I'm going to go under this loop that you can see. For the half double crochet, I'm just going to go under this front loop, pull up a loop and slip stitch into that stitch there. Now we make a chain and we turn our work around. We're going to work back into these stitches that we just made. Now this is a chain that we just made, and this is the slip stitch that we made this side into the center of the bag. So we're going to skip these 2 stitches and into this stitch that is the 3rd stitch right here. We are going to go into the back loop only, go under the back loop, and we're going to make our slip stitch. So that's my first slip stitch, and I'm going to make 7 more slip stitches into the back loops only of this stitch. So now that go into the back loop only and make your slip stitch. And make a total of 8 slip stitches. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now we should have remaining 9 stitches, and in the 9 stitches we're going to make 1 single crochet each, and we're just going to do that in the back loops only. So we go into the back loop only of the following stitch and make our single crochet. It's 1. We'll have a total of 9 single crochets once we reach the end of this row. Five, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So now we've completed this row. We're going to chain once, we're going to turn our work around, and we're going to work back into the stitches that we just made. So now every row we are going to only work into the back loops. We're going to skip this first chain, and into this stitch right here we are going to make our single crochet. So every time you work out to in, you make single crochets, 9 single crochets, and then you make 8 slip stitches after that, and then you slip stitch into the center part of the bag, and then when you're working out you will make 8 slip stitches, and then you make your 9 single crochets, and then you chain and come back in the reverse format. So now we are going to make 9 single crochets. We made 1 already. We're going to make 8 more. So that completes my last 9th single crochet of this row. And now into the remaining stitches, remaining 8 stitches, I'm going to make 1 slip stitch each. So I'm just going to go into the back loop only and make 8 slip stitches. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So after you complete 8 slip stitches, now we'll slip stitch into the center bit again. So the first time we slip stitched into the half double crochet. In the next row you will have this bump, so we'll slip stitch into this bump here. So every time you work in, you work out, and you come back in, you'll slip stitch into this bump, and then you all next row you'll slip stitch into this diagonal loop, and then you slip stitch into this bump again. So you keep doing that till you reach that stitch marker there. So now this time, since the first time we did it in that half double crochet, the diagonal line, this time we're going to go under this loop and make our slip stitch. And remember, when you make your slip stitch, make a chain, and you turn your work around and you start making your slip stitches. You will skip the first 2 stitches, so that is, you will skip the chain and you will skip the slip stitch that you made to attach this side to the center of the bag. So you'll skip these first 2 stitches and work into the second stitch, and you'll always only have 17 stitches on the side, 8 slip stitches and 9 single crochets, and come back. So you keep doing that till you reach this marker here. I'll meet you guys back when you reach this marker. So I reached the end of the 17th round, and all I have remained left to do is slip stitch into this stitch marker right here. When I mean the 17th round, it's every time you go out and come back in, it's considered 1 round. So from this starting part till here, you would have had 17 rounds, and this is your 17th row from this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull the stitch marker out, and I'm going to slip stitch into that stitch right there. Now grab the stitch marker. If you want, you can mark this stitch right here at the end. It's just so that you know that's where the stitches start to change. It'll be easier when you're trying to join the work, and this is your flap, so we can use that as reference. So now after we slip stitch, as per, we make one chain, we turn our work around to face this side, and we are going to be working on these stitches again, but this time instead of working on the back loops, we'll work on the front loops, and we won't complete the stitches. We won't do the same stitches that we were doing all this time. We'll do it a little differently. So now, like before, we skip the first chain, we skip this first slip stitch, and into the third stitch from our hook we go this time into the front loop only of this stitch. So just go under the front loop only and make your slip stitch. Into the following stitch we go under the front loop only and make our slip stitch. We'll continue doing that for a total of 8 slip stitches. So we have 6 more to go. We've completed 2 already. So now this is my last slip stitch, that's the 8th slip stitch. Now we would usually just go ahead and complete single crochets, but this time we're not going to do that. We're going to chain once, we are going to turn our work around again, and we are going to work in the 8 slip stitches that we just did. So we go back, this is our chain, we skip this chain and into the slip stitch, that is the last slip stitch that we just made. We go back into the back loop this time and we make 1 slip stitch, and we continue making 7 more slip stitches till we reach this end here. And this time we only work into the back loop, remember? So just go under the back loop and make your slip stitch. That's 2, 3, 4, and that's my 8th last slip stitch. Once you complete 8 slip stitches, we are just going to come back into the centerpiece of our work, of our bag, and we are going to slip stitch into these sides like last time. Because we the last slip stitch was in this stitch, we're going to go into this bump here and make our slip stitch. Now we chain once, we turn our work around, and we are going to work our way back on this slip stitches. So we are going to skip the first chain, we're going to skip this second stitch, and we are going to work into this third stitch, and we'll make 8 slip stitches thereafter, and we're working only in the back loops. So 2, 3, 4, 7, that's the 8th one right there. So now after we complete 8 slip stitches, we are going to make our single crochets along these stitches right here. And this remember, the stitch was the row where we were actually making our stitches in the front loops. So we are going to work into these front loops only of this row. So next what we're going to do is single crochets. So we'll only make single crochets in these front loops only. So we'll have 9 single crochets. But for the first single crochet, now we have this chains, these loops here. We had made chain spaces. If you just directly go inside this loop and make your single crochet, you'll actually see that there'll be a slight gap. If it's a very fine yarn, you won't really see it, but to avoid any gaps, what I like to do is, in these stitches below, you will find this stitch, this bump over here, which is actually our chain, which is our turning chains. So I'm just going to go pull up this, go under this bump over here, this bump right here in this corner. Just any one bump will do, right? And that doesn't count as anything, so you just have 2 loops. But now you go into these stitches where we were supposed to make our single crochets, go into the front loop only of that stitch, pull up your loop and make a single crochet like you would usually. Just yarn over and pull through all loops. That's still considered just a single crochet. So now that's 1. We have 8 more single crochets to do in the front loops only, so we continue making our single crochets here till we reach the end of this row. Oops. So this stitch here completes 9 single crochets for me for this row. So once we reach the end, working on our front loops, we finished and completed 9 single crochets. We are going to chain once. We are going to turn our work around, and this time we are going to work on the stitches again, and in the back loops only. We are going to make 9 single crochets first, and then 8 slip stitches like we've done in most of our rows. So first we make 9 single crochets in the back loops only. That completes 9 single crochets for me, and then I'm going to continue making 8 slip stitches in the back loops only till I reach the end of this row. So that's my last 8th slip stitch for this round, and I'm going to just turn my work around and I'm going to slip stitch into this stitch right here. So now this slip stitch completes 1 round. So we started off from this stitch right here. We worked 8 slip stitches, came back on those 8 slip stitches, made a slip stitch on this center piece of our bag. Then we worked 8 slip stitches again. Then we worked 9 single crochets. We worked our way back, 9 single crochets and 8 slip stitches, and slip stitched back into this space. So now all of this is considered 1 round, and it coincides with 2 rows of stitches on this side at the center of your bag. So when I say make 1 round of these stitches, it means all of these together. Okay, so now for the next round, it's the same as what we just did, just that we will keep working only on the back loops instead of the front loops of any of these rows. So we are going to make a total of 8 rounds till we reach this single crochet row. That's the single crochet that we did on the last loop. So you'll have a total of 16 rows over here. So if you consider these rounds, you'll have about 8 rounds till you reach this end. Then I will start round 2. Just as a reference, this round will be the round that you use for reference for the future when you need this pattern. So now we'll start round 2. So we'll make a chain. We'll turn our work around. And what we'll do first is we'll skip these 2 stitches. this chain and the first slip stitch, and we'll work into the third stitch from our hook, and we'll work only in the back loops. This is going to be similar to it's going to be exactly the same as what we did in round 1 for this pattern, but instead of working the front loops, we're going to work in the back loops. So we are going to make our first slip stitch and the back loop. We'll make 7 more slip stitches. So that's my 8th slip stitch in this row. Now I chain once, we'll turn our work around again, and we'll work back in these 8 slip stitches. So we'll make 8 slip stitches on the slip stitches that we just made in the back loops only. So we skip this chain, and to the slip stitch we go into the back loop only, pull up our loop and make our slip stitch. So that's 1, and we make 7 more till we reach the end of this row. It's my 8th slip stitch. Now I'm going to turn my work and face the front, and like we would usually slip stitch into this centerpiece, center part of our bag, I'm going to slip stitch into this stitch right here. So, and I'm going to chain once, turn my work around, and now we will work into these stitches like we usually did for these patterns. So we'll do 8 slip stitches on these 8 slip stitches, make 9 single crochets, and then work our way back with 9 single crochets and 8 slip stitches, all on the back loops only. So we'll skip this chain, first chain, we'll skip this slip stitch and into this slip stitch right here, that's the 3rd stitch from the hook, into the back loop only, we make our slip stitch. We'll make 7 more such slip stitches. So that's my 8th slip stitch right here, and now we start making our single crochets on these stitches down here. But before we do that, for our first slip stitch, we put our hook under this chain, turning chain of that previous row, and we also go under the back loop of this stitch right here. So that's the first stitch, and we pull up a loop and pull up a loop and pull through all 3 loops and make our single crochet. So that's 1. We make 8 more single crochets, that's 2, 3, 4, and this is my last, that is the 9th single crochet, and we chain once, we turn our work around, and we start working on these stitches. We skip the chain and we work in the back loops only of these stitches of the previous row. That's 1. We make 9 single crochets, that's 1 single crochet already done, 2, that's my 9 single crochets, and the remaining stitches we make 1 slip stitch each into the back loops only, so that'll be a total of 8 slip stitches. So that completes my 8 slip stitches. Now I'll just turn my work to face the right side. Oops, I just unraveled some of my stitches right there. Okay, so once you've completed 8 slip stitches, I'm going to slip stitch into the next available stitch on the center part of your bag. So this was the previous one, and now I go into this stitch right here and make my slip stitch. Now I'll make a chain and continue working on these sides. So let me just pull this loop out. So these rounds over here are very similar to what we did in the first 17 rows, just that we add this space in between so that this lays flat. So now this is where your bow flap sits, and this will be the part which is there on the top of the bag, and you want that to be flat, and you don't want that to flare up like this one, because then you won't have the structure of that bag. So that's why we're doing this, and that's why you have additional stitches in between to compensate for to avoid that flare. And this kind of makes that pattern look exactly the same without compromising on how it looks, but you still have reduced this flare in this side. So this round 2 is what we will repeat 6 more times on this side till we reach this row of single crochets. So in the bag where the flap starts, we had made a row of single crochets on the back loops only. So that one right there, we can mark it for you. You could have marked it earlier, but well, that's where the stitch is. This row, once you reach this spot right here, you would have actually completed 6 more stitches like that of round 2. So what you've done now, what we've done is we've slip stitched into this space. Now you chain once and continue, repeat round 2 for 6 more times till you reach this marker space here, or the space where we had the row of single crochets. You can identify that very easily because when you look at it, you can see that ridge which goes down, and these are the stitches. Okay, so I'll meet you guys back when you reach this spot right here, and then we'll start off the next part together. So I reached the end of round number 8, that is the 6th round after we completed our round number 2. All I have to do is slip stitch into this row where we had our single crochets in. So this is our row of single crochets. That's the row where we made our back loop stitches. So we will slip stitch into this stitch right here, this loop right here, sorry. So just go in and make your slip stitch, and that completes that round. So that is a total of 8 rounds, and if you see, it kind of makes an exact rectangle. This little bump will be fine once we make this side. So yeah, so now if you see, this is the first part of our work. This is the second. Now this had 17 rounds and this had 8 rounds in total. This coincides with 17 rows of the center part of our bag, and these 8 rounds coincide with 16 rows of the center of the bag, and we've reached this row of single crochets in the back loop. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a stitch marker and mark this row, this last row that we just did. So I'm just going to put my needle into this corner, stitch mark into this corner and mark it so I know. Now I'm going to call this pattern right here pattern A, and this pattern B. So I'll tell you why I'm going to call that. So let me just pull that loop up so it doesn't unravel. Now in this section, from after we've slip stitched into this space to the first marker, that is a total of 30 rows, you will make the same pattern that we've made in this front part, that is pattern A. So make pattern A here. Once you slip stitch into this marker stitch right here, you start making pattern B, and we will start from row 1. So just come back to this pattern and make the same work exactly how we did round 1 and 2, and continue making the exact number of rounds for this part. So only for this part you'll have more rounds than this, so you'll have a total of 30 rounds in this section of pattern A. But for pattern B, you'll have exactly the same number of rounds as we did in this section. So you'll have 8 rounds. Just follow the same pattern that we've done in pattern B here. And once you slip stitch your pattern B, once you end your pattern B in this stitch right here, that is 16 rows after this stitch marker, you will have 30 rows remaining of the centerpiece, and in this 30 rows you're going to make the same pattern as pattern A right here. So you'll have 30 rounds of that pattern here. I'll start you off with pattern A, and so you have an idea of how you transition from pattern A to pattern B over here, and now you'll have a reference of how you transition from pattern B to pattern A. So we'll do that part together, and then I'll let you get on with the rest of them. So for this, grab your needle. Let me just zoom in. Now we've slip stitched into this row where we had the row of single crochets. Now we chain 1, we turn our work around, and we make our pattern A. If you remember, we skip the chain, we skip this first slip stitch, and into the third stitch from our hook we go into the back loops only, and we'll make slip stitches. But just for the start of this round, we are going to skip these 2 stitches, and instead of working in the back loop, we are going to work in the front loop of that row. So just go into the front loop and make your slip stitch. So we make 8 slip stitches in total. That's 1 done already. We make 7 more slip stitches in the front loop only. So that's 3, 4, 5, and that's my 8th slip stitch. Now we continue working in the front loops only, but this time we make a single crochet. So we'll have a total of 9 single crochets from this stitch on. That's 1, that completes my 9 single crochets of this row. I'll turn my work around, and now I'll work on the back loops of these stitches. So now into the back loops only of the stitches. In the first 9 stitches we're going to make 1 single crochet each, so that's a total of 9 single crochets in the back loops only. That's my 9th stitch, and now in the 8 remaining stitches we are going to make 8 slip stitches in the back loops only. oops, that's my 8th slip stitch. And now to complete this round, we will slip stitch into the center part of our bag. So that is this stitch right here. We'll make a slip stitch there, and then we'll chain once, and we'll continue making this pattern, but we'll make it on the back loops only. So you do that 30 times till you reach this marker here. So every time you have a transition from pattern A to pattern B, or pattern B to pattern A, just make sure that that first row, that first round, you work into the front loops instead of the back loops. Just one part of that first round, just the first row of that first round, in fact, you work into the front loops instead of the back loops, but every other place you work into the back loops only. The reason we do work into the front loops is these are spaces. After in every part where we're changing, we've had these markers, these are places where the bag folds. So you want this fold to appear neat. So when you work on the front loops only, you have these loops that jut out, which create this illusion of that neat edge. So that's why we work into those front loops only, to create that sharp edge in the corner when we're working. So that's why. So just make sure you remember to work in the front loops of every transitioning row, but every other time you work in the back loops only. So now this is how you transition from pattern B to pattern A. You already know how to transition from pattern A to pattern B. I've shown it to you here. So now continue making pattern A till you reach this first marker. That's for a total of 30 rounds. After that, for 8 rounds, you make pattern B, and then 30 rounds of pattern A. I'll meet you guys back before you complete the last round of pattern A in this row. So you will, instead of completing 30 rounds, just complete 29, and I'll meet you guys and we'll work the last round together, because we need to make a little changes in that. So I'll meet you guys at the end of this, almost at the end of this row, so the second last row. So I'm at the end of round number 29. All I have to do is slip stitch into this spot right here. So I'm just going to do that. And for the last round, that is the 30th round, what we will do is, as per, we will chain once. We'll work our way back in this side on the back loops only. We'll make 8 slip stitches and 9 single crochets, and the way we come back is what is going to be different. So just let me turn my work around, and you can go ahead and make 8 slip stitches and 9 single crochets on the back loops only of the previous row. So just come to the end of that side, and that's my last single crochet. So once we worked our way out, for round number 30, we'll chain once. We'll turn our work around, and instead of working 9 single crochets and 8 slip stitches, what we'll do for this round is just work into the back loops only and make a total of 17 slip stitches. So we've chained once. Now we'll go into the back loop only of the first stitch, and we'll make a slip stitch. We'll continue making slip stitches on the back loop only till we reach the end of that wing part of the side part of the bag. So now I'm just at the last, that is the 17th stitch, and that's going to be my last slip stitch in the back loop. Now we would usually slip stitch into this stitch right here, but what we are going to do is look at these stitches on top. So we would usually, if we were going to make our stitches, we would go under these two loops. Instead of doing that, we would just go under the back loop only, like what we've been doing all this time, and we'll make a slip stitch. So we didn't do anything till we reached there. All we did after the 17th slip stitch is slip stitch directly into this stitch right here. So now you go into the following stitch under the back loop only and make a slip stitch again. So you continue making your slip stitch all the way till you reach the end of this part of your bag, the center part of your bag. So I'll meet you guys back after you've completed a total of 40 slip stitches after the 17. So I've reached the end of that side, so that's a total of 40 slip stitches after my 17 slip stitches. Now we'll start making the other wings on the other side. So we'll make 17 chains like we did in the beginning. Now that's my 17 chains. We'll make one additional chain that isn't counted as a stitch, it's just a turning chain. Now into the second chain from the hook, we'll make our first single crochet, and into the following 8 stitches we'll make one single crochet each. So we'll have a total of 9 single crochets. After our 9 single crochets, we'll make 8 slip stitches. Once we reach the end of our row, we will slip stitch into the first stitch. So now that's this diagonal space right here. That loop, sorry. So now that completes my first round. Now we'll continue making our chain 1, turn around and go round 2 with 8 slip stitches, 9 single crochets, chain 1s, come back with 9 single crochets and 8 slip stitches. So this will be our first pattern, that's pattern A, till we reach this stitch marker right here. That will be exactly 30 rounds, after which we'll continue with pattern B like we did on the other side. Then that'll be 8 rounds of pattern B, and then we'll continue making pattern A for 30 rounds, after which we'll make 8 rounds of pattern B, and then we'll make 16 rounds of pattern A, and for the last bit we'll end it exactly like how we did this other side. You come back after making all that, after making 16 rounds of pattern A here, and we'll have 1 round left and we can do that together. So I'll see you guys back after all this. Before I let you go, I'll show you how the work looks so far. So we've just started this side, so we've made 1 row on this side, 1 round on this side. This is how your work should look, and don't worry about all these frills. Trust the process and it will straighten off once you make your sides. So once you make this wings like so, it will straighten out and give you a very structured look for the bow. So we just continue doing that. Like I said, you make 30 rounds of pattern A, the same thing that we did right now on this edge. Then we'll make 8 rounds of pattern B, 30 rounds of pattern A, 8 rounds of pattern B, 16 rounds of pattern A, and the last round will be exactly the same as what we just did together, the last round. So it's essentially just half your pattern A round and a row of slip stitches on the top. So if you're comfortable doing that on by yourself, you can go ahead and complete your 17th round exactly like we did here, or you complete 16 rounds and come back and we can do round number 17 together, and then we can finish this section off and start off with just side section and then join the whole bag together. Also, if you don't have any marking on this side, don't worry about it, we'll mark these sides together later. You can just take all these pins out. Even if you don't have this marker, it's fine, we can count our stitches and mark it very easily later. So I'll see you guys back once you've completed this whole side. So I've just completed the last section, that is pattern A. We had to complete 17 rounds in total. I've completed 16 rounds, so that is the last slip stitch I have to do for that round. I make a chain, and now for the 17th round, as the last round, we'll work our way out like we have done the previous round. So first we make a chain after the slip stitch, turn our work around, and we'll make 8 slip stitches and 9 single crochets. And that's my last single crochet, the 9th one. Now we chain once, we turn our work around, and now in these stitches right here, we'll make slip stitches all the way till we reach this end. So first what we'll do is we'll go in and work our slip stitches into these stitches right here. So first we make and we're only going to work in the back loops only, so we'll make a total of 17 slip stitches till we reach this stitch right here. That's the side part, so you'll have 17 slip stitches. I just finished one. I'm going to go ahead and make the rest. So I've just completed my last, that is the 17th slip stitch for this side. Now, as we did on the other side, when we reach the center, what we will do after 17 slip stitches is we'll find the first stitch in the center of our bag. That's this one right here, and we'll just go into the back loop only of that stitch, and we'll make a slip stitch. We'll go into the next stitch, into the back loop only, and make our slip stitch. So we'll make 40 such slip stitches until we reach the end, and then we will continue making 17 slip stitches on this side. So I'll meet you guys back when we finish making our 40 slip stitches, and I'll show you what we do here. I'm just completing the 40th stitch. Now if you look ahead, you will see stitches. If you count them, you'll have exactly 17 stitches to the end. So we'll make 17 more slip stitches in the back loops only all the way to the end. That's very simple. Just go in and complete it, and we should be done with this side. Then we can cut our yarn and work into attaching the sides to the bag. And once we've done this, I'll also show you how the bag as of now looks. So that's my last slip stitch, and I've done my row all the way from there till here. Now you can choose to lock your yarn and cut it off. So now that's one whole big chunk of your bag done. Let me just zoom out and show you how the bag looks so far. So once you've completed your bag, that's where we've ended our last stitch. So for identification, this is the front side of your work. So we just ended here. If you don't know how to identify it, if you look behind, you can't really see a ridge in this joint, but in the front side you'll be able to see this ridge, which will give that definition for your bag. Also, this stitch where we made that rows of back loop only single crochet in the front, in the center of your bag, this should have this kind of dent in the middle, but on the back it won't show anything, so you know that this is the front part. So if you don't know what it is, don't worry about anything. You've just completed your work to this corner, and just grab a stitch marker and mark this side as the front side. Just grab a few stitches and put your stitch marker. So this is the front side. Now this is how your bag should look. Yeah, so now if you fold this part, and this becomes a base which will flare up like that, and this comes on top. So that's how your pouch is going to look. Now we'll make the side straps, and then we'll learn how to, and then we'll join them together. See you in the next bit. Now we'll go ahead and start the side of the bag. Just keep your D-rings close by. We will need it shortly. So first we'll make a slip knot and make 16 chains. So that's my 16 chains. Now I'll make one additional chain. That's our turning chain, doesn't count as a stitch. And now from the into the second chain from the hook, I'm going to work into the back bumps of the chain. So that's my front of the chain, the back, and I'm going to work into this bump. So into the second chain from the hook, I'm going to start making single crochets. So I'm going to make a total of 16 single crochets, one in each of the chains that we just made. Now that's my last stitch, the 16th single crochet. Now I'm just going to pull this loop out of the front so I can weave it in. So what I like to do is just turn my work up, and I go put my hook in between this loop over here, in between both the loops there, and once I come out, I go into this loop, this corner loop right here, and pull this thread out. So now it's come on top of these stitches, and you can just weave them in when you're making the next row. So for row number 2, I'm going to make a chain. I'm going to turn my work around, and I'm going to work into the back loops only of these 16 stitches that we just made. So we're going to go into each of these back stitches, the back loops only. Also going to hide this yarn when I'm doing so. Make one single crochet, and I'm going to make one single crochet into each of the stitches all the way to the end, and I'm just going to make that in the back loops. Just a suggestion, when you're making these stitches, don't make them too loose. Keep them just about right and tight, because you don't want to make them really loose. Otherwise you'll have these sides which are going to be really stretchy. I mean, anything in crochet is pretty stretchy because the stitches have loops and yarns around, which does make them stretch naturally. But try making the stitches as tight as you possibly can. Don't some people have this tendency of going into it and pulling up a big loop and making your single crochet. Don't do that, not for this bag at least. Just go into this loop and pull up a short loop as short as possible, just enough to let your hook come out and make your single crochet. So that makes your stitch, that'll make your stitch quite tight. So continue doing that to the end of this row, and I'll meet you guys back. So now that I've reached the end of the row, and I have made 16 single crochets in the back loops only for row number 2, I'm going to continue making the same thing, 16 single crochets in the back loops only for a total of 53 rows. Once you reach row number 54, we will attach this D-ring to the side of the bag. If you're not going to attach a D-ring and you're going to use your bag as a clutch, skip this step and just go ahead and make 60, that is 60 rows of these single crochets in the back loops only, and meet me back when you're done that. If you're going to attach the D-rings like I am, or you want to know how to attach the D-rings wherever you feel like, come and meet me after row number 53 before you start row number 54, and I'll show you how we do that together. I've just reached the end of row number 53. Once you complete row number 53, you should have a long piece of work like so of 16 stitches. Now for row number 54, that's where we're going to attach the D-ring. So I'm going to make one chain, turn my work around, and into this back loop again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work 4 stitches into the back loops only of this row, like we were doing all this time. So we're going to have 4 single crochets in the back loops only. Notice that I have made my stitches quite tight so that I don't have a lot of movement in my work. That's 4 single crochets in the back loops only. Now I'm going to grab this D, I'm going to place it on my work right in front of me. I'm going to pull up this loop long, going to go under this D, and I'm going to go into this back loop of the following stitch. So that's the 5th stitch of the previous row. I'm just going to go into the back loop only of that stitch, and I'm going to tighten my yarn. I'm going to just pull it, tighten it, pull up a loop, and make a single crochet like we usually would. So now that secures your D-ring to the bag, and this is going to be the front side of my bag, so that's why I've put it that way. So now into the next stitch, we do the same thing. We go under the D-ring and we go into the back stitch of the next stitch. Back loop of the next stitch. So just go under the back loop of the next stitch, pull up a loop, and make your single crochet. So we've made 2 single crochets with the D. We will make 6 more single crochets. So just go under the D and under the back loop of the following stitch and pull up a loop and make your single crochet. That's 3. We'll make 5 more. Just remember to pull your loops tight so that there's not too much pull with the D-ring. It's just enough for it to slide around so that it can move with the handle, but it doesn't really pull your bag too much. So keep it tight. Once you've made 8 single crochets around the D-ring, you should have 4 stitches remaining, and we will just make single crochets in the back loops only without going under the D into the last 4 stitches like we did for the first 4. So just go into the next stitch into the back loop only and make your single crochet. Make 3 more such single crochets. Now for the next row, we just chain once, turn our work around, and as per, we just make 1 single crochet into each of these back loops. You shouldn't have any problem working into the back loops of these stitches. They will just seem the same. If they seem tight, it's good, but you will be able to put your hook into it and make your single crochet. So continue making row 55 all the way through to row 60 the same way that we've done all this stitches. So make one single crochet into each of the back loops until row number 60, and I'll meet you guys back once you've completed row number 60 to show you how the final piece looks. I've just completed row number 60 and I'm going to cut my yarn. You can fasten off whichever way you like. I just like to pull this yarn out and cut it, and I will weave it in later. I don't like making this slip stitch and fastening it off because it makes a bump and I don't like that. You can do it, there is nothing wrong with it. That actually makes your yarn more secure, but I'm just going to weave this in or stitch it when I'm joining the bags. So once you've completed the side, this is how your piece should look. You can see that the D is nice and snug against your side piece. So this is one done. I have made another one. You will need to make one additional one exactly like this one too. Just make sure you have two identical pieces for the next part. As you can see, we have the full pouch and the two side straps that we just completed with us. Now what we are going to do is we're going to attach this to this bag over here on this side. So before we attach it, I would like to mark them. So we will start working on this side of the bag. So if you're facing the front of the bag, this is the right way, and this is the correct, this is the front of the bag. If you're facing this side, we're going to work on our left side first and then work our way to the right. So first what we will do is grab one of the sides, right side facing towards us. We'll pinch these two sides. So what I've done is essentially put the wrong side of the bag against the wrong side of the strap, like so. And I'm just going to grab stitch markers and I'm just going to pin them together. I haven't really pinned them properly, so I'll zoom in and I'll show you what I will do later. So how it works is, now when you see this bag, you can see this ridge over here. This is where we turned our work from pattern A to pattern B. So that's where the end of the strap will attach itself. So I will show you in a zoomed in version of where exactly I'm going to pin these two together, but for now I'm just attaching it temporarily to this piece. So now this base goes on this side where we had pattern B, and then the other side will go across the 30 rounds of pattern A. So that'll be all the way till here before we start pattern B again. So now that you have a rough idea about where our pins are going to go, where these sides are going to actually get attached to, I will zoom in and I'll show you the exact spots where I would pin them together. So now that I've zoomed in, I'm going to show you exactly where I'm going to put these stitch markers. So the first stitch of this side strap, I'm just grab my needle. So this is a first stitch and this is a corner stitch, the corner loop. So we're going to grab this corner loop and we're going to grab the corner loop of this first row right here. So we're going to grab a stitch marker, grab this corner loop of this first row and grab the corner loop of the first row of this side strap and pin them together. We'll start working in that direction, from that direction, so we don't really have to mark all the stitches all the way to the end. But what I would like to do is mark this corner right here. So now when we go to the corner, if you just flatten this bag out, you will see that you have this line of loops that are neatly seen. That is where we had done the front loop stitches instead of the back loop. So you have that whole row. standing out. So we're going to use that as our guide to mark our stitches. If you find it difficult to do that, just count 30 row rounds all the way from here. So how you do that is you consider this 1, 2, 3, these 2 rows as one. So just the first row is just half of it. That's just 1 row. Every other row round is 2 rows together. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You go all the way to 30. When you reach the end of the 30th row, that is this one right here, you mark that row. So I've just pulled that stitch marker out. I mark the end of this row. Grab the corner stitch of that row right there. Oops. Grab the corner stitch of that row right there and grab the corner stitch of this side strap. That's the last row of this side. So that's your strap, the last row, and we grab the corner stitch and we're going to work into those right there. So when we come here, we'll work into these chain stitches or your loops, and we'll work into these loops here. So I'll show you that for the first side, and you can mark the same for this side and the end of this stitch marker, the side with the stitch marker as well. But since we've got the exact number of stitches, it shouldn't be hard to follow on with when you're just attaching it directly. So let me grab my yarn and needle and show you how we start attaching it. I have my yarn and needle. I am going to work on the left side of the bag like I showed you. If we were looking at the front of the bag, I'm working on the left side, the front left side of the bag, so that it's not difficult for you to see. I'm just going to pull these markers out so that it lays flat down and it's easy for me to show you what we are actually doing. So once I lay my work flat like so, I've just pulled out the other side, you have this stitch marker which indicates the first stitch where we're going to join it. You're going to pinch them together like so. So you have the 2 back sides facing each other. I'm just going to turn the work around so you can see better. So now I'm facing that way. I'm just going to work my way down. Grab your yarn and your needle, sorry. Now I'm going to pull this stitch marker out. I know these 2 stitches right here. So go into any one of the stitches, out to in. I'm just going to go into the one to my right, which is the side strap. I'm going to pull up a loop and make my slip stitch right there so I can secure this yarn. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this stitch, the first stitch of this side. I'm going to go into that, pull up a loop and make a slip stitch. So that's our first stitch to join the 2 sides. Now we are going to go back into the same onto the same stitch where we had made the slip stitch to secure our yarn, because that slip stitch doesn't really count as a stitch, it's just there to secure the yarn. So now that stitch right there is the one where we made our slip stitch. So we go back into that stitch right there, we pull up this loop and we make a slip stitch again. So we are going to attach it by making slip stitches on either sides. So every time we make a slip stitch, we go from outside of that side to the in, grab your loop, come out and make your slip stitch. So what I'm going to do now, after the first one, I go into the second loop right here, the loop of the second row. I'm going to grab my yarn, make a slip stitch. Now I'm going to go into this side. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to go into this stitch of the second row, that's this one right here. I'm going to go under that loop, pull up a loop, pull through both loops and make your slip stitch. Now you go into this side, you go from out to in, pull up your loop and make your slip stitch. You do the same on the other side, go into the stitch of the next row, let's run this one right here. Pull up your loop and make your slip stitch. We continue doing that all the way to the end. So go ahead and complete joining these sides all the way till you reach the end of this side. I have reached the end of the side. That was the last stitch that I just joined. Before I start off with part B, attaching part B to this side, I just thought I'd show you. Once you attach this one side, you can actually start seeing the structure of the bag quite well, as opposed to how this multiple free areas that you have. You can see the structure. So yeah, so let me just zoom in and show you how we do the next side. So as you can see, I've worked into the last row. We haven't worked into this last row here as yet. Now you can see this slip stitch. This is a row where we've done the stitches with the back loops, with the front loops actually. That's where the pattern changes from pattern A to pattern B. So now we have to grab not this stitch, but when you look at it closely, this is your chain stitch. So this becomes your first stitch. And what we'll do once we finish that side is we go into this stitch, into the next stitch over here, like we were doing. And instead of going into the side now, we will turn our work around and we will start working into these loops. So now this is the one loop, the loop that's closer to you. We are going to work into the loop that's further away from us. So from the outside, grab the loop that is further away from us and make your slip stitch. Go into the next stitch, make your slip stitch on this side, and go into the other side and make your slip stitch onto the back loop. So out of the two loops, just go into the back loop and make your slip stitch. So we'll continue doing that for this side till we reach the end. That is till you join the base of the side patch to the side where you have the pattern B. So only till here. Then you turn your work around and then start working on the side loops of both the sides, that is a side strap and your bag, and work all the way up to the junction where you transition from pattern A to pattern B again. So your last stitch will be in the last row of pattern A, that's this one right here, before transitioning into pattern B, and your side strap would end right there, and you would have had one whole side attached. Once you reach this end, do not fasten off and cut your yarn. We will continue using the same yarn to work around the sides and go to the other side and start working. So once you reach the end, meet me back here and I'll show. Almost come to the end of attaching both sides of the bag. So now I just have 2 stitches remaining. That's one on each side. So I've completed one on that side, and this is the last one before we reach the pattern B. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into this stitch like we were doing and complete this side. But for this side, instead of going into the side stitch, I'm going to go, if you turn your work up, you can see that this is your stitch. So I'm going to go into that space right there. So I'm going to go under both these loops and attach this piece. So I make the slip stitch after going into both those stitches there. It's just so that you have no gap between your pieces. Now that your whole side is attached, I'll just show you how it looks right now first. Oops. So this is how your piece should look, and you can already start seeing the structure of the bag. Once you complete the other side, you'll have a very solid structure for the bow bag. So that was the last stitch that we made to attach the side to the center part of our bag. Now after that, our next stitch, that is this one right here. So this is the last stitch that we just made, this stitch right here, where we go into that stitch, make our slip stitch, and then we make one chain. So we'll continue doing that into each stitch. So just go into the following stitch, make a slip stitch, and then chain once, and then go into the next stitch, make a slip stitch, and chain once. We continue doing that till we reach the end of this side. So this is the side of pattern B, so you complete that, then you go on to pattern A, but you do the same thing because you have the same number of same stitches all the way till you reach this end right here. I'll meet you guys back when you reach the end. So now I'm just at the last stitch. I'm just going to go in, make my slip stitch and chain to complete this side. Now you can see that your chain comes out of this side. Now you turn your work around to face to work on the top sides of the bag. Now that is your first stitch. So you have the back and the front loop. We are going to work into the front loops of these stitches. So my last was a slip stitch and a chain, and now into this stitch right here. It's going to be tight because you just worked into the side of that stitch. If it's too tight, just grab another needle or a stitch marker and pull your thread. Make space for your needle. So now we go into the front loop of that row, that stitch, sorry, and make our slip stitch. And then we'll make a chain as well. So now into the following stitch, into the front loop only of that stitch. So these are actually the slip stitches that we made in the top of our bag. That was the last row. So in that, we are just going into the front loop of that slip stitch. It may be tight because they are slip stitches. You just go into the front loop of that slip stitch, make a slip stitch and chain. We continue doing that all the way to the end of this side, and then we start working on this side where we go into each stitch, we make our slip stitch and a chain until we reach the end of pattern B. So this is pattern A, pattern B, and this is where you need to start attaching your side piece of the bag. So just grab your side piece and start attaching it and go all the way around like we did for the first side. And I'll meet you guys back once you've attached the whole side and you've reached the end of the bag. Alright, I'll see you guys in a bit. I've just completed the last stitch of the joint. You can fasten off and cut your yarn. So that completes this side, and you can see the bag looking more and more like a bow now. So all I have left to do is put my lock in and you should be good to go. Just stretch it out well. I'll fix my lock in and I'll show you the final look of the bag. So here's the final look of the bag. I attached the lock to it, and I also added some lining on the inside. It just makes the bag look very professional. So yeah, you can see that it has good structure. If you think you want to make this more stiff, you can add a plastic canvas on the inside of the lining, or you can use fabric stiffener to stiffen the bag, but I think it is perfect as is. I'm just going to add a gold handle to it and carry it with me, or you can just carry it on like a clutch. I love how this bag turned out. If you did like the tutorial, please leave us a thumbs up. It means the world to us and it motivates us to make more videos like these and post it. Also, if you have any comments, please do leave them in the comments box below. And I'll see you in our next video. Until then, happy crocheting!